أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program. Inshallah, we'll start our program with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. After Dua Tawassul, inshallah, instead of giving a lecture and speech, we will discuss some of the relevant ahkam of fasting as we are about to embark or start the month of Holy Ramadan. Without any delay, I will request Brother Rahil to go ahead and start us off with Dua Tawassul. Bismillah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم، يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن، يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء، يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله. اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد، يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله، يا حسين بن علي، أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وسيع الحسن والخلف الهجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله حاجات. يا سادتي ومواليا إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فخري وهاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنكذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجاء يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you very much for that recitation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the hajat of all of those who are following along and mu'mineen in general. Let's remember those who are in need of dua, especially those who have requested for dua sihat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them all a quick recovery. Let's recite this ayat from Surah Namal together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. Also, let's remember those of our marhumin who left us in this in the past year, the era of COVID, as well as all of our deceased relatives, marhumin, mu'mineen, mu'minat. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Inshallah, as Mahe Mubarak Ramadan is upon us, expected to be starting inshallah from next Wednesday. So this is the last 7 or 8 days that we have from the month of Sha'ban. I thought it would be important that we went over some of the, very relevant mubtala common issues that normally people have regarding the fast and the ahkam of fasting. So inshallah, I'll run through these slides. Hopefully they're beneficial. And as a recap, just so that we can remind ourselves of these ahkam, because they're not used in daily basis, but we come across these especially during the month of Ramadan. And hopefully, with this is a continuation, and inshallah, moving forward, and the nights like Thursday night and then Jummah Salat, the khutbahs that we will be, inshallah, geared toward the month of Ramadan. So let's get started right away. Different types of fasts. There are different categories of fasts. One is the obligatory, and believe it or not, there are haram fasts as well, mustahab and makruh. So obligatory are the ones that we have during the month of Ramadan, and there's some other categories. Haram is one of the haram fasts is on the day of Eid al-Fitr. Mustahab, there are a lot of recommended fasts. You went through the month of Sha'ban. There are so many days which it is recommended to fast. And makruh, there are also, for example, a fast by a son or a daughter whose parents tell them not to fast, and they go ahead and fast anyway. Some certain fasts of that nature and others. What are some of the wajib fasts which is related to us? Of course, fasting during the month of Ramadan, qadha fast, the ones that we have to give kafara for example, one of the kafaras of missing a fast or breaking a fast is to fast for 60 days. That becomes obligatory. Istijari, if you are fasting on behalf of someone who's deceased, and you've been hired to go ahead and make up those fasts, they become wajib upon you. Fasting on the third day, if you're sitting in i'tikaf, because during i'tikaf you have to fast all 3 days. The third day is obligatory to stay in the masjid and the fast of that day, of course. Fasting in place of the sacrifice. So when you go to Hajj, you have to give qurbani. And when you're unable to give qurbani, instead of that, in lieu of that, you must fast for 3 days and 7 days after Hajj. Fast that have become wajib by virtue of nadhr. So you make a nadhr that I will fast on this day if so-and-so thing happens. With all the conditions that have been met, your fast will become obligatory. Of course, here presented is the number one, fasting in the holy month of Ramadan. And the qadha fast of the father whose responsibility falls on the eldest son. Haram fast, I'll skip through this slide because I want to get to the ahkam of fasting. So number one, and the first and foremost thing that we need to do as far as the ahkam of fasting is the niyat, the intention for the fast. Now, when it comes to the month of Ramadan, you have two choices. You can either make the niyah on daily basis for each fast. So in the morning when you wake up for suhoor, you make the niyah. And you make the niyah that I will be fasting for this first day of Ramadan, qurbatan, wajib qurbatan Allah. And for example, if you sleep through the suhoor and when you wake up in the morning, you have until dhuhr time to make up the niyyah, as long as you have not done anything which invalidates the fast. So fasting is a form of worship and must be performed with the niyyat and with the intention. The second way of doing the niyyat is to make the niyyat for the entire month. So on the first night of month of Ramadan, you can make the niyyat that you will fast for the entire month. And you can do that. And therefore, if you forget on daily basis, it will not matter because you've already made the intention. And this, I already mentioned, it is wajib. The fast must be made, the niyyah for a wajib fast must be made before the adhan, unless, of course, there's a valid excuse. And I said until, and in that case, you can make the niyyat until dhuhr, given the fact that you haven't done anything that invalidates the fast. It's not necessary to verbally state the niyyah. You can just run it through your head. And niyyah for the Mustaf fast can be made during the day, anytime, any moment before Maghrib. So you didn't eat anything until Maghrib, and you didn't do anything which invalidates the fasting. And before Maghrib, you can make the niyyah, up until the last moments before Maghrib of the next day, so long as it's sufficient time to make the niyyah. And of course, you haven't done anything which invalidates the fast. That is for mustahab. Remember, for wajib, it is up until Dhuhr time. Some of these tafta'at in this reference, can a person who must perform a qadha fast of Ramadan make a nadhr to fast? A lot of time people question, or even person who would want to make mustahab fast, can they do that while they have qadha from the previous Ramadan? The answer is no. Such a person cannot make mustahab or nadhr. First duty is to fulfill their wajib qadha fast. This is not comparable when it comes to salat. You have qadha salat, but you can still pray mustahab salat. So don't do qiyas in this reference. But as far as fast is concerned, if you have qadha from Ramadan, throughout the year, all these special occasions when there says mustahab to fast, you cannot make a fast with the niyat of mustahab. You must make it with the niyat of wajib to perform and to fulfill the qadha before you can go ahead. Now, of course, when on 15th of Sha'ban, you want to fast and you have qadha, you go ahead and make the niyat that I want to perform the fast. So you make the niyat of the qadha of Ramadan and you fast on 15th of Ramadan. So you get the thawab of both, mustahab and qadha. But you cannot make nadhr, which itself was one of the wajib fasts. Things which invalidate one's fast, these are some of the things that invalidate. We'll go through each one or some of them very quickly. Eating and drinking, the most common thing which will break, and common in a sense that each and every single one of us, it's possible for us to go ahead and do this. So among the acts that invalidates fasting is eating intentionally. That means what? That means if you ate by mistake, you forgot that you're fasting, you woke up in the morning, you went to the fridge, you opened it up and you drank a glass of water or a cup of milk or something, and then realized, oh, I was fasting. So if you do it by mistake, your fast is in order and there's no penalty. You continue fasting. It is preferable for the fasting person not to swallow the phlegm that has reached the mouth. It's better to spit it out. Even when you're not fasting, it's better to spit it out. But if you do swallow it, it does not break your fast. And even, large amount of saliva which gathers in your mouth in large quantities, there's nothing wrong in swallowing it. As long as nothing from outside has gone into your mouth, mixed in with the saliva, then you swallow it. That is problematic. So the question a lot of time arises that, when you brush your teeth, of course, you're allowed to brush your teeth. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people feel that maybe we can't brush our teeth. You can brush your teeth while you're fasting, and you should brush your teeth. It's just recommended not to put a wet toothbrush in your mouth. So just put the paste on it and then, brush your teeth. And afterwards, you can rinse your mouth with water, of course. As long as nothing reaches your throat, you're fine. And nothing will be, the fast will be intact, and because nothing has gone beyond the throat. Yes, but if you brush your teeth and you did not properly rinse out the particles of the paste, and then saliva gathers in your mouth, and then you swallow that, and you know that you have swallowed and there was paste in your mouth, then of course it will invalidate your fast. But that is when you know it for sure. So brushing is okay, and rinse out and spit out once you have brushed your teeth. A person may not break his fast because of weakness, but unless it becomes truly unbearable. For example, especially when it comes to younger children, those who've just become baligh, especially young girls, they become baligh and now they have to fast. and they're young, they're 9, 10 years old, and it's very difficult for them to fast, and they become weak, it's unbearable for them, it's okay. They can fast to the extent that they can, and then if they cannot continue any further, it becomes unbearable, it will be okay for them to break their fast, and there won't be any kafara upon them either. They'll just have to make up the qada of the fast that they broke. So that's sort of like a grace and the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although it is obligatory on them, but because of their young age, they're unable to do so. And this is according to Ayatollah Sistani and majority of the other Maraji. I've already covered, brushing the teeth. However, the lingering flavor or taste of the paste that mixes with saliva does not affect the fasting. So you can brush, it does not invalidate fast as long as one does not swallow the saliva that is mixed with the toothpaste. So I already covered that masala. Sometimes people need to use these nozzle spray or even inhalers. With the use of nozzle spray that facilitates breathing, invalidate fast. According to Ayatollah Sistani, if the spray that comes out of the nozzle enters the respiratory tract, similarly, the inhaler that enters the respiratory tract, then there's nothing wrong. It does not invalidate the fast. This is a mas'ala which is different fatwa based on the marja that you follow. So I will explain the difference in this. So as far as corona vaccine is concerned, if you are worried about that you have your second dose or first dose, for example, falls during the month of Ramadan, that's okay, nothing wrong with it. You can get the corona vaccine or any other vaccine for that matter. That of course goes in the muscle and it does not invalidate your fast whatsoever. Similarly, drawing the blood. Now, drawing the blood, it's only makruh if it makes you weak, but it does not invalidate. In fact, it is a universal law that qaida kulli, as we call it, anything that makes you weak is makruh to do while you're fasting. So according to Ayatollah Sistani, if a person receives nutrition intravenously, does that invalidate his fast, respect to the fact that it was absolutely necessary for the patient? He says, whether it was necessary or not, it does not invalidate the fasting. But this is ihtiyat wajib according to the other maraji. Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi considers that it will invalidate the fast. And Ayatollah Khamenei also gives ihtiyat wajib that it should not be done. But Ayatollah Sistani here says it does not matter whether it's vaccines, regular injections that people get, or other shots that you get, or even if you're receiving nutrition, it does not invalidate your fast, whether it was necessary or not. Of course, if it wasn't necessary, someone's trying to get nutrition through intravenously, then it might be an act of karahat, but it will not invalidate the fast according to Ayatollah Sistani. So I just wanted to make sure that we're clear that Ayatollah Makarim and Ayatollah Khamenei do not permit this, but Ayatollah Sistani gives permission to this. According to some jurists, a person who intentionally invalidates his fast during the month of Ramadan by committing a sin has to pay all three. This is again a conflicting masala between the Maraji. Ayatollah Sistani says you never have to pay all three kinds of penalties. Now we know the three penalties are what? Number one, emancipating a slave, which of course is no longer possible for us. Number two, fasting for 60 consecutive days. Number three, feeding 60 poor. Ayatollah Sistani says you will never have to combine all three, but other Maraji, when you break your fast through an act which is haram. For example, someone breaks his fast or her fast by drinking alcohol, which is haram, or other acts which invalidate their fast, and it is haram for you to do it, and it is a sin even when you were not fasting. So some Marajis say all three kafaras must be given. But of course, even in their perspective, because emancipating a slave, freeing a slave is no longer possible, they only say the rest of the two are obligatory upon you. Ayatollah Sistani says no. The penalty of, of course, emancipating a slave is waived. It's no longer possible. It should, however, be clarified that in our view, it is not obligatory to pay all three kinds of penalties for invalidating a fast during the month of Ramadan by committing a sin. So one of the three penalties would be sufficient. Things that are makruh, as I mentioned, anything that makes you weak, smelling these herbs or flowers, wetting your clothes, or standing under shower for a longer period of time so that it feels good or something. Brushing your teeth with the wet toothbrush, with a dry toothpaste, with the dry toothbrush and toothpaste, it's permissible. Having your teeth pulled out, or any other action that causes mouth to bleed. Even the blood does not go inside, but it causes the mouth to bleed. It is makruh. Using eye drops, alcohol, when the taste reaches the throat, it is makruh. Yes, it does not break the fast. Using nose drops, if it doesn't know that it will reach the throat. But if it does reach the throat, you're using the nose drops and it reaches the throat and you can feel and taste it, then of course your fast is invalid. But if it doesn't, then it is only makruh. So, the last one is something which we might come across. What is the responsibility of a woman who is in the latter stages of pregnancy or is feeding the child with respect to the fast that she misses during the month of Ramadan? And so she is required to perform the qada. So she doesn't have to fast at that moment when she's in the latter stages of pregnancy or even post-pregnancy. Ramadan comes, someone just given birth and is feeding the child. They don't have to fast. And but they have to make up the qada for the fast that they have missed. And on top of that, they must also pay what is called fidya. Fidya is 750 grams of popular food item, which in the monetary terms might equal to about $5 in our locality. So remember, a woman who's going through this stage in her life, during the month of Ramadan, she doesn't have to fast. There's only qada and the fidya. A lot of time people confuse between kafara and fidya. I don't know if there's a slide which covers both. There's a difference between the two. Fidya is much cheaper than kafara. Kafara is a lot bigger than fidya. Fidya is only $5 because you only have to feed one person. In kafara, you have to feed 60 people. So you multiply 60 by $5, and that's the amount that becomes due upon you if you were to do the kafara. So kafara is when you break the fast intentionally. You don't fast during the month of Ramadan for no reason. Any of these things which, you say, well, today I have soccer, so I won't be fasting today. No, that's not a valid excuse. There are ways of working around it, but you can't just wake up in the morning during the month of Ramadan and say, well, I'm not going to fast because I don't feel like it. That will entail kafara. Some of the miscellaneous rules as far as fasting is concerned. In the following conditions, neither required to perform a qada nor a kafara for a fast. So if these things happened, then there's neither a qada nor there's kafara. The fast of a new Muslim, so everything prior to his conversion to Islam. Someone who, due to old age, neither fasts during the month of Ramadan nor performs the qada fast after Ramadan. Someone is very old, they're advanced in age and it's unbearable for them. Of course, they're on medications and whatnot. But however, if fasting is possible but difficult, so this is where the masala changes. Someone who, due to old age, neither fast during Ramadan nor performs the qada, there's nothing upon them. So they don't have to do qada, nor there's a kafara for them. But if it is difficult, if fasting is possible but difficult for them, Such a person falls in the category of that woman who's pregnant or post-pregnancy, right? So they too must give fidya. So for example, you have an elderly parent who is diabetic, for example, or heart patient, and it's difficult for them to fast. They don't have to make up the qada, but to be part of the essence of fasting, if they give this fidya, 750 grams of food, which again equals to $5 in our locality, they will be in the spirit of fasting, inshallah. The qada fast of mother and father. This is again a relevant question. A lot of people ask this question, that after the death of one's father, we know that it is wajib for the eldest son. But if it's there's no, the older child is not a son, then it's not wajib on anyone. But they can still do it. Some people think, well, the older child is not a son, therefore, nobody, of course, it's not a wajib on anyone. But if the younger children, they want to go ahead and perform, it will benefit the deceased father. So, but if there is an elder child who's a son, it is wajib upon him to perform father's qada, prayers, and as well as fast. And if he can't do it himself, he can hire someone, pay them. That was the fast isti'jari in the beginning, and get it done. And it's also recommended precaution for him to do the same upon the death of his mother. Now, it's not obligatory, right? It's only obligatory to do this for deceased father, but it is recommended to do this for your deceased mother. Things that invalidate fast, of course, we talked about eating and drinking, swallowing dust, attributing false statements to Allah, Prophet, and Imams. And this also includes Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamullah Alaiha and other prophets. Submerging one's entire head underwater, so you can't swim. Well, you can swim, but you can't, completely immerse your head under the water. Vomit, if it is done intentionally, it will invalidate your fast. But if it, of course, happens unintentionally, that fast will remain intact. This is, inshallah, I'll conclude with this because I've run out of my time. This is when it comes to those who are travelers. This is very relevant. A lot of us travel during the month of Ramadan, and sometimes the travel is necessary, sometimes the travel may not be necessary. So what are the conditions for that? So traveler must not fast if his obligation on a journey is to perform the 4 rak'ah prayer as 2 rak'ah. So if I go, let's just give example. I live here in Hillsborough and near Masjid-e-Ali in Somerset County. And if I travel to New York City, definitely my salat is qasr over there. My fast will be gone for that day. Traveler who performs his prayer in its complete form, tamam, such as someone whose work is traveling, or for example, I work in New York and I travel there daily basis, then regardless of Ramadan or not, I will be praying full there. And when I pray full, pray tamam, then I will also be fasting there. And another category for someone whose journey is for a sinful purpose, and therefore they must also fast on this journey. Number 2, traveling during the month of Ramadan is not forbidden. So you can travel, it's not haram. But in order to escape from fasting, it's makruh. Similarly, traveling in general in the month of Ramadan is makruh. One should definitely avoid traveling, except for necessity, of course. And if you could go to Umrah, that is fine. Traveling before and after the Dhuhr, this is again a very pertinent issue. A lot of people have questions about it. So if you leave your hometown before Dhuhr and you come back before Dhuhr, then your fast is intact. So for example, I left my hometown in Somerset and I went to New York after doing the sahur, after praying my Fajr prayer in the month of Ramadan. I went to New York City. I was there for a couple of hours and I returned around 10 o'clock. As long as I didn't do anything to invalidate my fast is intact, and because I made it back before Dhuhr. But if I traveled before Dhuhr, let's say around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I got back, it was Dhuhr already. My fast for that day is gone. There's no kafara. All I have to do is make up the qada after Ramadan. Or altogether, I don't travel before Dhuhr. I travel after Dhuhr. So I wait until it's Dhuhr time, Zawal, and then I begin my journey. Then there's nothing up to me. I can go to New York. I can even fly to go to, for example, another city, a couple hours of flight, anything, as long as I'm leaving after Salatul Zuhr. And my fast will be intact and nothing will happen. All right. Conditions in which one is only required to pay the fidya. These are also issues that, these are all the issues that do come in handy, but I'm only looking for the ones that, so these are the last 2 slides. Let's just go over it and inshallah we'll conclude. If due to illness, one cannot fast and the illness persists for several years, upon getting well, one must perform the qada fast of the most current year only. So for example, someone became diabetic. For 10 years, they couldn't fast. After 10 years, their diabetes, for example, has gotten better and they're no longer diabetic, or they're able to fast. They should only make up the most current year. For each previously missed fast, they should provide fidya, which was 750 grams of food to a needy person. An elderly person for whom fasting is difficult and cannot perform any fast, thus he or she should provide this fidya. One has a medical condition that causes them to become thirsty more often than usual, thus prohibiting this person from fasting either at the prescribed time or performing qada fast. Therefore, this person cannot fast even after the month of Ramadan, because this medical condition will exist even after the month of Ramadan. So all they have to do is give the fidya. Conditions in which person must perform both qada and give the fidya. One who has a valid excuse to abstain from fasting, then the excuse ends after Ramadan, and one intentionally fails to perform the necessary qada before. So for example, I was traveling for work, but I was only gone for like 4 or 5 days, and I came back. When I came back, I started fasting, but I missed 5 or 6 fasts. Now that the fast that I have missed 5 or 7, I must make them up before the beginning of the next Ramadan. If I fail to do so, and there was nothing stopping me from doing so, and there wasn't any genuine excuse like illness or something, then I must, along with qada, must also pay the fidya. One who has a valid excuse of abstaining from fasting, like travel or other illness, then the excuse ends after Ramadan and one postpones the necessary qada fast for several years. One must perform the necessary qada and 1 kafara of feeding 750 grams of food to a needy person. In this case, the kafara is not compounded for every year of delay. So conditions become a little bit more tough if you delay your fast for more than 1 year. And that is also unnecessarily for several years. A woman who is in the advanced stage of pregnancy, this was covered before, during or after the childbirth, while nursing, must do qada after the month of Ramadan or whenever it's possible for her, and she must also give the fidya. These are some of the ethics. Fasting is a spiritual worship rather than the physical one, as some of us might presume that it is a physical one, that we lose weight or we go into a diet or something. There are a lot of traditions in this reference. Number 1, from Amir al-Mu'mineen, many people get nothing out of their fast but hunger and thirst. Many more get nothing out of their night prayers but exertion and sleepless nights. wise and sagacious people are praiseworthy even if they do not fast and sleep during the night. So, come min Simon. So your psalm and your salat, time bil-layl, has no value as opposed to someone who doesn't fast and sleeps at night. But this person is what? This person is muttaqi, parhezgar. Prophet said, if people only knew the benefits of fasting, they would not skip a day, aside from those days which is, of course, haram for one to fast. And I'll just quote one more tradition from Bi Fatimatu Zahra salamullahi alayha, who said, Ma yasna'ul sa'imu bisiyamihi idha lam yasun lisanahu wa sam'ahu wa basarahu wa jawarih. What is the benefit of fasting person if he or she cannot control his tongue, ears, eyes, and other body parts? So, of course, we should be fasting with all our wa jawarih. Sorry for rushing through all of these masail, but I wanted to cover only the ones that are, more relevant to us, pertaining to, come about on a yearly basis. Hopefully, we were able to cover all of those. Once again, a lot of people have asked me about getting the vaccine while fasting. Nothing wrong with that. You can get the vaccine while you're fasting. Hopefully, this small episode was beneficial, and you can always go back and watch it at later time. Thank you very much for listening. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Mutawajjih ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum Nabi Allah. Assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah. Assalamu alaikum ya khaira khalqillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Abu Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum ibn Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abika wa ala ummika wa akhika wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya gharib al-ghuraba. السلام عليكم معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليكم شمس الشموس وعنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض الطوسلي ابن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم صاحب الأسر والزمان. السلام عليكم إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليكم شريك القرآن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وانصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.